Doesn't it feel like modern life is designed to make it almost impossible to sit still?
Because every app, every platform, every notification is competing for one thing and one thing alone, your attention.
And not just your attention, but your dopamine. Even our financial decisions are starting to feel engineered around instant gratification.
And the scary part is, I don't think most people realize how much their behavior is shaped by this constant stimulation.
So today, we're asking a bigger question.
Are we addicted to dopamine? Because without the chance to stop and reflect, we really can't grow. This is episode 194 of The Fi Guys. Let's get into it.
Modern life may be the first environment in human history where stimulation, entertainment, validation, and consumption are available instantly and infinitely. In today's episode, we're going to explore whether modern society is overstimulating the human brain, how dopamine influences behavior, the connection between psychology, finance, technology, and fulfillment, and whether convenience and instant gratification are quietly reshaping humanity. I want to also preface that this is not an anti technology episode. We do love technology over here at the Fi Guys. This is an exploration of what happens when human biology collides with modern systems designed to capture attention. This is the Fi Guys. We are very excited for this episode. Thank you for being here. And let's get right into it. So, Chris, happy Monday. If you guys are watching on Monday, it is Monday. Happy Monday. Glad to see you back again. We got some big questions for you today. Some big questions and big kind of dialogue and ideas to really sink our teeth into. We love these deep talking, these deep conversations on a psychological level because at the end of the day, all of our decisions hopefully can be broken down with psychology. So let's get into question number one. So, what happens to human behavior when stimulation becomes instant and infinite? So, human beings have evolved in environments of scarcity and delayed reward. We talk about this all the time on the episodes, right? Modern life offers endless novelty, entertainment, and stimulation instantly. Men have become tools of their tools. You see, technology was designed to serve humanity, but increasingly, humanity has reorganized itself around technology. So, one of my first questions to you this podcast, Chris, is from a psychological perspective, how does unlimited stimulation change human behavior over time?
Probably in a multitude of ways. The first thing that I immediately go to is that without the ability to stop and reflect, we end up living our life kind of on autopilot without being able to take a moment just to think and see like, oh, did I make the right action or the wrong action in that decision? Or did that action serve me? We're just going to kind of stay on what I like to call this hedonic treadmill. And I know we use the word hedonic treadmill and that we just are constantly consuming, but it also has another connotation in that like we're never actually adapting. We're just continually moving. So maybe hedonic response might be a good way. Stimulus response, I'm never actually thinking about what I'm doing. Um, I believe that we kind of live in like a deterministic universe in that like the future almost is set if you were to know everything that was going to happen. But we have this amazing ability as human beings to, before something happens, if A happens, most people say, I respond with B. But we have the ability as humans to use our brains to say like, okay, A happens, I can respond B, C, D, E, F. Like you have all of the letters, an infinite number of letters that you can choose to respond with. But if we're constantly stimulated, constantly moving from our next thing to our next thing, we never have the chance to ever explore the multitude of other options that we have to whatever is being presented to us in our lives. And most people go through life responding with whatever the first thing is and without the ability to reflect. We'll never be able to see that we had a chance to respond in a different way. So that's the way that I think it might be shaping us over time. There's an old saying that what one individual is going to do to a response, you can't tell. But what a society is going to do to whatever happens is almost a statistical certainty. Because you can say that the general group, majority of the people in it are going to move in this direction. So if more of us are moving into this place where we're never stopping, we're never reflecting, we're never trying to use our higher level thinking, We're all just moving with the group. And unfortunately, the group often walks off the edge together.
Not looking forward to walking off the edge. This is why we need to reflect more. As someone who does meditate a lot, and does take that time to reflect and be one with yourself and kind of disconnect from this high paced world that we're living in, how important is that reflection time for someone who, you know, doesn't reflect at all? Because there's a lot of people I know that let's just go, go, go. I mean, it's almost, and this is like really sad to say, and this is not to be disrespectful or anything like that, but it's almost like some people aren't awake. Like they haven't questioned their own consciousness. They haven't asked the bigger questions, and they haven't taken the time to, reflect and be alone with their thoughts. But for someone who's maybe like new to this journey, it's their first episode, and they're just like, hey, what's this all about? Reflecting. I think about things all the time, but how important is this reflection, and what does that look like to you, Chris?
Yeah. Well, first off, as someone who does meditate pretty much daily, like you have to remember it's a practice, right? And I'm not anywhere near good at it, like at all. Even yesterday, I found myself scrolling YouTube Shorts, and after like 20 minutes, I'm like, "What the hell am I doing?" So I got lost for 20 minutes. Saying, "What am I like?" None of this is serving me at all, and I had to put it down. And there's been billions of dollars spent on psychologists and technologists to create this phone that is perfect at stealing one thing, and that's your attention. And your attention is your time. And the time that we have is the one non-renewable resource that we have in this life. Like you only get so much time and it's gone. And we all have a clock and it's ticking away. And we don't know when that clock's eventually going to break for each one of us. But could you remind me of your question, Dom?
Yeah. So my question was, how important was it to really meditate and be with yourself and kind of um, just let's see. I'm sure I have it in here. Hold on. Uh, yeah. So my question was for someone who doesn't have the ability or doesn't have the time or who has never really just sat in silence and really meditated and just thought, how beneficial is it to just, turn off society for a while and look inward? Because a lot of people, they never really look inward.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the biggest unlocks of my life was to have the metacognition to think about your thinking, to be able to realize like, oh, I can actually choose this. I think back to when I was a kid, and I think a lot of us when we think back to past selves, like to who you were even yesterday or the week before, a month before, a year before, whatever amount of time, you can look back on the responses you had and be like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Like what the hell was I thinking? But we think to ourselves right now when decisions are making like, oh, obviously I'm making decisions like on a conscious level. And I made it like I weighed all the options and I made the best decision based off of the economic data that was given to me, presented to me. But in truth, if you look at your past self, pretty much at every time in your history, and you think about some of the decisions you made, you're like, I don't know why I did that. So what makes you think that modern you, current you right now is making any other decision other than what you have done in the past, which is just kind of moving through life? So that ability to be able to sit and reflect and think about your thinking was one of the biggest unlocks because it made me realize as I think back on my past self and maybe even my future self and my current self, how much of my response, how much of me going through life is just not being present and just kind of moving through it or trying to distract myself to not be here right now. And that's the journey of the lifetime is to try to come back to the present, come back to the present, come back to the present, to live here right now. Because in truth, we only have this. The past is gone. The future is not set. Like we have right now. But too much of us, we're trying to escape to the future or live in the past. And through meditation, through these things, we come to realize, oh, I can be present right now. And that's all that I actually have.
I think social media is also kind of designed for us to reflect in a negative way. It's like, oh, how stupid am I? I mean, look at this guy. He's younger than me and a thousand times richer than me. It's like, oh man, why didn't I start an internet company at 15? Why didn't I do this? And social media, it just seems like it used to be such a cool place. I remember when I got an Instagram the first time, and the first photo, I love this, and it was a picture of my cat sitting on the toilet. And it was like my little cat named Salsa. Love this cat. It's like I just wanted to share it with people. I just want to like put it out there and like, oh, that's a cat. That's cool, you know. And now it's like, I mean, what are we doing? Even here at the Fi Guys, we are creating shorts to capture people's attention, to bring them in. I mean, you have a cat, I have a cat. Where's our cat photos, right? What happened to that golden age of social media where social media was social? I remember when it's like, of course you'd post your prom photos. Of course you'd post the homecoming dance photos on Instagram, right? I would never dream of doing that now if I was in school. Like that's crazy. Um, it just seems like life has shifted so differently in a way I have not expected. But I want to move on to question number two. And question number two is: are human beings losing the ability to tolerate boredom? Now, I know a lot of us, some of us, see boredom and it's like, I don't want anything to do with boredom. That's a scary word. I hate being bored, right? I love being bored, to be honest. But so why does this matter? So boredom once created reflection, right? Creativity and imagination. We've all been on that road trip where your mom said, can I have this? Can I have an iPad? Can I have this? Whatever, right? Nope. Look outside. Why don't you just look outside? Watch the rain fall on the windows. Just watch the rain, right? If you didn't have that in your childhood, I'm sorry. You're missing out. You can definitely stare out the window now, though. So in today's society, boredom is eliminated almost instantly through phones and entertainment. Right? What happens when we're bored? Let me check Instagram. Let me check Twitter. Let me check TikTok. I mean, there's like five you can go to instantly and get that high, that dopamine high. The ability to be alone is the ability to love. What a quote that is. That's one of those quotes where I'm going to have to sit on it for a while, like a hen, and just think about this and try and connect with it. Because this quote the breakdown of it is: if someone cannot tolerate silence and stillness, they may never fully understand themselves. And understanding yourself is one of life's greatest questions, troubles, and journeys. And I don't know if there's an endpoint. I don't think there's a place where you get there and you're like, I understand myself. I know. Maybe there is. Maybe I just haven't reached it. If you've reached it, let us know in the comments. And please put your age too. 'Cause if a 16-year-old's like, oh, I know myself. I know myself. It's like, all right, buddy. Okay, cool. But my question to you, Chris, on this next one is: do you think boredom serves as an important psychological purpose that modern life is slowly removing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the answer isn't unequivocal. Yes, it does serve an important purpose, and unfortunately, yes, modern life is getting rid of it faster and faster. Just like you were talking about earlier, if you don't have the experience of being on a long car ride, right? And now I look to young people and they're just engrossed on their iPads. Like the moment they get in the back seat, they have an iPad or a TV or three things. I remember back in the day we had a Game Boy, and at nighttime you couldn't play it because you didn't have enough light, and you're not allowed to have the light on. So you would sit there with the window down, and you would play with the wind, right, with your hands, just kind of move it up and
100%.
down, right? Like we all
Yep.
remember that. Or trying to hold your breath between trees, or like you're just trying to do fun things. And that's why we had so many fun games as kids, where nowadays I feel like a lot of people are like, I don't know how to create a game. Hopefully someone gives me a game to play with. So it does remove something. It kind of breaks something in the human psyche. We always used to make fun of goldfish. Like goldfish has a 10-second attention. How dumb is a goldfish? And now modern research shows that the average human being kid who's stuck on social media has less than 10 seconds of attention span. So this is certainly doing something to us. And anyone that says it's not doing something to us probably has a pretty strong financial incentive for you to not see the truth. Boredom serves as the thing that allows us to reflect. Boredom gives us the creativity to start to think about other ways that we can go about life. It gives us the imagination to think of abilities or ways to get around problems. And boredom is really hard. Boredom is a difficult thing to sit with. I mean, we say it on the podcast a lot, but all of man's discontent comes from his inability to sit in a room to sit in a room alone. War, famine, like all the things that we have created is because we don't want to be alone. It's because we just can't sit there and be like, all right, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with what is right now, being alone in a room. So instead of being alone with myself, I'd rather go and pillage, we'll do whatever it is that I need to do to not have to do that.
Yeah.
That is that fear of boredom. I remember for myself when I was going to take time off a year, like I was going to take a few years off when I left my last financial firm. And this is how this podcast actually came to be in my business, and a lot of stuff was I came to the fruition of like, all right, I've saved quite a bit of money, and now it's time for me to like just take time to relax. I was in my young 30s at the time. Actually, I think it was in my 20s. But it was like, I'm going to take some time to just relax. I haven't relaxed in over a decade. And I was bored, like extremely bored. And that boredom led to depression because I had no purpose. So when people say like, oh man, I really just want it to be boring. I don't want anything to do every day. No, you don't. You don't want that. You want to be able to live your life in a meaningful way. But that boredom is the thing that shows you like, hey, you were meant for more. You can do more. And that boredom allows you to sit there and say, what is that more for me? What is going to be the thing that's going to keep this boredom away? It's going, and not to say that you want to keep the boredom away forever, but the boredom is a signal. It's a signal that maybe you're not moving on the right path to you. And in life, sometimes you're going to have to be bored. There's going to be moments in life, but too many of us nowadays, we fear being bored. So the moment that we're stuck in a line for more than 3 seconds, we start scrolling. The moment that you're watching TV with 2 iPads in front of you, you click on the website and it doesn't load immediately. So you pull out your phone and start scrolling. Like we all know what this is like. And that's honestly not a good thing because unfortunately in life, it's not going to be like that. Imagine that you're a bit older or right now and you have your spouse with you or your kids with you and you're sitting there and you're trying to have a conversation or you were having a conversation like me and Dominic. And I asked Dominic a question. He goes, oh, let me think about that. I'm like, okay, then, well, I'm done. And I walk off to go and start scrolling on a video because he took 2 seconds to respond.
Yeah.
We're creating that in ourselves and our people. Like you can look at the way that Dom and I communicate. We speak extremely quickly. And I think a lot of it is because of what we grew up in. But also I'm worried it's going to get faster and faster. Like look at the way that people communicate now. It's just like, I mean, at some point, it's going to be like loud yelps to like be able to say all the response really, really quickly. And it feels like things are getting shorter and shorter and shorter on the way we communicate because we don't have the time or the ability to sit there and actually have the conversation and try to listen. And then when you make things shorter and shorter and shorter, you lose a lot of the nuance that long form conversations have, or being able to take the time to sit and really reflect and speak to one another or to speak to yourself. And that's where boredom comes in. The boredom is speaking to yourself and listening.
Sometimes I'm better at being bored, being, I'll say empty of thoughts, empty of things to do. When I know there's like a million things to do, the to-do list is never at zero. It's never. Um, but to be honest, some of my favorite times of the day is after I check my phone to make sure I have all 5 of my alarms set up and it is connected to my watch. And I lock my phone, I put it on the nightstand, make sure I got my watch on. I sleep with my watch for the data. I get all snuggled in my bed. I close my eyes and I say, I wonder what we're gonna think of now. Where do we wanna go now? Sometimes I'll go to a memory I had, whether it's typically like on a Disney cruise, honestly. Typically, that's where my mind goes. That's like one of my happy places, or, taking my imagination in a different space. And I gotta say, that's like some of my favorite times of the day, because I know the day is finished and nothing we can do about it, but just sit and rest and relax and just be with myself. And but if you gave me the same opportunity at, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, hey, just sit here for 15 minutes. And be like, dude, I'm checking my watch. Like, I got stuff to do. Like, I can't, I can't do this right now. Like, it's even like giving me a little bit of anxiousness just even thinking about that. So I definitely think there are better times to be bored. I think there's definitely better times to really look within. I know, Chris, you typically like meditate in the morning before?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So I used to for a number of years wake up at 4 a.m. and do that. As I've gotten older, I've moved that actually to like 4:30 or 5.
Mhm.
But I think, and there's probably something that's like evolutionarily bound to us, like from a very, very long time ago. But getting up before the sun wakes up, it like gives you that moment, that time where you have time to reflect. Because just like you, Dom, if it's midday, if it's like morning, like I feel like I must be productive. Like I have to be productive. I have to be doing something, right? Like I can't be bored at this time. But in the early morning, when you're up before anything else, you're up before the birds, or maybe you're waking up alongside the birds. You're up before the sun is up. Things are just slower, and it's like time for you and you alone. And like I know it sounds weird, but like I love those moments. Like I'll wake up and I'll go for walks with my dogs. I'll take my dog for a bike ride. I'll clean parts of the house if I need to. I'll meditate. I'll work out. I'll do all these things in the dark, and usually quietly because my wife is upstairs sleeping. But those are those moments where like you actually get to get it and you get to understand. I think so many people, we go through life hoping to be bored. Like, oh man, I just wish I got to the point where I didn't have anything to do on my to-do list. I wake up and there's all this anxiety from all these things to do on my to-do list. I remember that exactly. I know what that's like actually now. But I'll tell you something that's even scarier. It's waking up and having nothing to do on your to-do list. And now having to try to fill the day when you're alone, when you're by yourself completely and you have like, what the hell am I going to do all day? That's one of the biggest unlocks for me when it came to meditation and being able to like view my thoughts for what they were, was that it was born of necessity, of true necessity, because I didn't know what else to do. Being alone, saying, hey, I'm going to retire at 29 or 30 years old for a few years and just see what it's like to be alone because I just want to relax and do nothing. Month later, depressed.
Yeah.
Probably even like weeks later, depressed. Like that, it wasn't a good thing for me. And it made me reflect and it made me grow a hell of a lot.
It's interesting hearing those two words next to each other, relaxed and do nothing. And every time that I feel like I'm just going to relax, it's never to do nothing. I'm going to relax. I'm going to play a game. I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to have a snack. That last one, dangerous. um, but no, I think it's, um, I think it's something that we need to build into our day, whether you call it motivation or I'm sorry, not motivation, meditation, or, just, hey, I'm shutting off for a few minutes, right? I think it's so important. Before the podcast, we were talking a little bit about, um, I don't even know how I want to say it, how it's said, but we were talking a little bit about raw dogging it, like how you go on a flight with no, with, with no, um, but no music, no movies, none of that stuff, and people on social media, and it's so funny because it's like, dude, people on social media are doing this. I'm like, dude, my dad's been doing this for years, bro. There's no movies on his phone. His phone is like it's like flip phone, and then one step above, it's like just just smart enough phone. That's what my dad's phone has. Like he is the type of guy. It's like, oh, I'm flying to Minnesota. It's like cool. It's like sitting in the chair for like 3 hours. Like Where does he go? What is he thinking? And that's how we always used to fly, right? Now Delta has these, cool movie screens, pretty snazzy. You could play chess against a guy in 14A, just destroy him. Um, but it's returning to these states where humanity's dopamine levels might have been better. The psychological effects of these, stimulation have definitely taken a toll on us. And it seems like a small portion of society has started to take back what they once have. And I think that's really interesting. I saw a video, um, I believe it was in the last couple weeks, and I thought it was so interesting because this guy, he had to study for a big test, a big midterm, and he's like, "I have to study for 3 hours, but before I study, I'm gonna stare at this wall, a blank wall. There's nothing on the wall. It's literally just like go to any wall in your house, like not a picture, just like paint." And he just stared at it like 15 minutes. Um, and I was like, "That is that this a trend? Is this like this is stupid? This is the silliest thing I've ever seen." And then I thought about it a little bit more. I'm like, "Oh, that might actually be genius." Because if you think about it, he's staring at something that is extremely boring, a wall, right? And how boring is homework, studying? Terribly boring, terribly boring when compared to the dopamine of TikTok, of playing a game, of chatting it up with the friends, right? It's super boring compared to that. But studying compared to staring at a wall, oh man, that's way better. So it's kind of interesting to see people start to reset their mind. Not saying you should stare at a wall. Maybe you should. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't stared at any walls. Maybe, you know, I should I think even funnier though, don't just like sit down and stare at it. Just stand right up against the wall and Blair Witch style. Just have someone walk in the room like, what the hell is he doing? He's like, I don't know, man. He's gone. He's just staring at a wall. Yeah, that's not in our action step for today, but maybe it is. I don't know. So let's get on to our next question, eh? I gotta cue Chris back in here at some point during the episode. So let's get into our next question. So is convenience making people psychologically weaker? I'll let you answer that one for yourself. So why does this matter? Friction once required patience, resilience, effort. Modern systems increasingly remove discomfort from everyday life. And this is a quote that if you're new to the Fi Guys, you're gonna hear this a lot throughout our episodes. But for today's quote was easy choice, hard life, hard choice, easy life. Chris Monzon. Um, but avoiding discomfort often creates a larger problem and a long-term problem, while voluntarily while difficult problems are good for society, right? Something that we can sink our teeth into and really put all of our mental capacity into. We really need to return to these discomforts, this struggle in a weird way. And I know that seems so weird, seems so counterintuitive. But my question to you, Chris, is how important is the struggle or friction to healthy psychological development and life as a whole?
Oh, it's again, it's everything. Like, and it could be adversity that was either chosen by the individual that I'm going to put myself into this fire to deal with and to overcome and to get better, or it can be non-chosen. And the way that we suffer or grow from that really depends on how we choose to frame it. Like we can kind of go back and think about the kids that we knew growing up, right? There would be the kid who had everything that was really difficult for him. Parents, went home, his parents were both working, or maybe they didn't love him, or who knows what the hell was going on at home. But that kid was pretty psychologically strong. They could be okay. And then we knew the kid, or just think about your own kids, I guess. Let's think about this.
Okay.
What is more loving for each one of us who want to be parents one day or have kids? You want to give them the best life. No adversity, no struggle, no friction. I'm going to be the mom or the dad that if he gets bullied or she gets bullied, I'm going to beat up the kid. I'm going to make sure that everything's okay. If they get a non-passing grade, I'm going to go yell at the teacher and make sure the teacher knows that my kid's special and perfect. And then you think of the kid who comes in, they get bullied and they have to learn to figure it out. They don't get a good grade and their parents aren't there to protect them and they have to go ahead and try and work harder and get better. And they struggle, but they grow from that. We all grow from friction. The same way that we grow muscle in our body is not by sitting on the couch. It's by going out there and doing things. It's by lifting weights, tearing muscle, which forces the body to grow, to adapt, to get better, to get stronger. Not in the service of trying to beat other people, but in the service of trying to get better for yourself. Because in the real world, mom and dad aren't going to be there to protect you. I knew a lot of people growing up. Actually, I didn't know a lot of people growing up. I met them kind of later on in life who were, I'm just going to call them like psychologically weak human beings. Mom and dad took care of everything for me and all this stuff. And then the moment they entered the workforce and your boss tells you got to do this thing. And they're like, well, I don't have time. I don't have this, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't care. Like, you are going to get this done. And people would just straight up collapse like into themselves because the thing that you should have learned was never done for you. If you want to give your child a life without struggle, without friction, you can lock them in a room, feed them pancakes under the door every day, and that way they'll be safe. They'll be safe from the outside world. But one day you're going to pass away, you're going to die, and then they're going to go out into the real world and they're going to get taken advantage of. They're going to get, destroyed. So like true love isn't trying to take away all of your struggles and your frictions. True love is being there to support you as you go through those things. Because true love understands that you're going to go through it at some point, regardless if I'm here or not. So I'd rather you go through it while I'm here to help support you through it, to get better, to get stronger, to understand that like life is not easy. Life is extremely difficult. Anyone who came into this world, no one was born, like doctor slapped you on the ass, you started crying. It's like, all right, kid, from here, it's all upside. Like you should never run into another problem in your life. If someone told you that, like they straight up lied to you. The first noble truth of Buddhism is that life is suffering. Life is dukkha. And the word dukkha doesn't translate perfectly from Sanskrit, and people hear the word suffering and they think like, oh, life is like always suffering. That's really sad. Like, I don't want to suffer. But life, according to dukkha, which is there's no perfect translation, is unsatisfactory. It's not what you want it to be because you're not in control of it. You don't control all the outcomes. You only control how you choose to respond to things. And that creates struggle. That creates friction. That the world or outside of me is not playing to the way it should play in my head. And that causes me psychological distress. That causes me to struggle. It causes friction. Friction that the world, the universe, all of it is not bending to my will, not bending to the way that I think it should. And you could deal with, and most people do this, especially now on social media, they'll sit there and they'll complain about the way the world ought to be. The world ought to be like this.
Yeah.
But we don't live inside that world. No one does. You live in the way the world is. So you can sit there and complain and cry and be sad that the world is not the way it ought to be. And the way to get it from where the way it ought to be is to realize that this is the way the world is. And if I want it to be to ought, I need to start to change things. I need to get better. I need to grow. I need to come up against these struggles, these frictions, and be able to learn to move past them. I'm going to get off my soapbox here in 1 second, but I think a lot of people, they hear the word nowadays, especially when it comes to like, oh, the patriarchy and all this other BS, but people will hear things like, oh, power. Power is a bad thing. Why would you want to be powerful? Powerful is used to oppress people. Well, that's not true. Power, true power, is the ability to close your eyes, think of a world different than the one that is right now. Then wake up or open your eyes and then say, I'm going to go and I'm going to struggle. And I'm going to deal with the friction to make the world into the way that I see it in my brain. That doesn't mean you're ever going to achieve it. Most likely you won't. But power is being able to go out there and try to get better, to try to learn, to deal with the slings and arrows of life in order to try to see the vision through.
You know, it it a question kind of popped up in my head, and I was curious to hear what your kind of answer would be. But what kind of characteristics do you think can only be developed through that struggle that you were talking about?
There are virtues in life, things that I think a lot of people when they think about like what is it that I want in life, or what is it like when I'm gone that I can't that I will take with me. What things are not going to be left behind? Too many of us we focus on when I pass away, I'm going to leave money, a house, all these things. But like no one gives a shit about that. What they really care about are the virtues that you have. So the things that come from that struggle is wisdom, discernment, courage, honor, strength, like these cardinal virtues of life. Those are the things that come from the struggle. I think many people they're just like, I don't want to struggle. I don't want these things. And again, like death is my like greatest teacher in life. You know, and it's kind of funny. The thing that we're all running from, the thing that teaches you most about life is the not living part of it, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like a conundrum, but at the end of this life, you get to take those things with you. When you're gone, your wisdom goes with you. Your courage goes with you. Your compassion goes with you. Your honor goes with you. There's not going to be left in the room. It's not going to be left on a mantle. It's not going to be left anywhere. Like it goes with you. So those are the things that I think happens through the struggle because there's not many people that you know that never struggle. I mean, try to think of anybody, never struggled, no issue, no nothing. And they're left. And they're like, wow, that person was really strong. You know, that person was really wise. You know, think of any story when you were a kid of the wise king or whatever. Like when Mufasa dies in The Lion King, he dies because, and it's so sad because he's wise, because he's all of these things, because he went through adversity and he took those things with him. But then it lives on within Simba, and the same thing for all of us. Like these things are all within us, but you have to be able to cultivate them, to see them within yourself, and to bring them up.
All the traits that you were mentioning, it's not something that you can buy. I can't buy wisdom. Can't you know, buy any of those traits. And I think that's so beautiful about it because it requires it's so cool, you know, to get something that will last forever, you have to sacrifice something that isn't infinite, and that's time. And I love the idea of that. I love that I'm trading something that I don't know how much I have, but I know I can't get more of for something that will benefit myself or society or my family. And we all spend time, whether we choose to or not, but how we spend it, it's just so interesting sometimes. It's so different from human to human. So, moving on to our next question. And a lot of these are going to be like yes questions, right? But it primes us to have a deeper conversation, right? So, are dopamine driven systems changing how people make financial decisions? So, why does this matter? Spending, gambling, trading apps, online shopping, and social media all use reward systems that influence impulsive behavior. I think when we're at our impulsive self, that's when we're at our weakest. I have a rule in my own life that I don't make any major decisions past 8 p.m. And it's funny because I know that most of my bad decisions come past 8 p.m. Right? That's when I'm at my weakest. Come around this house though. Ooh, I tell you what, my guns aren't weak though. Anyway, that's just a message for the local burglars. That being said, the chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they're too strong to be broken. And this quote should really scare you. It should really scare you because it's not so much. what you know that could hurt you. It's what you don't know that by the time you figure it out, it might be too late. Small repeated behaviors quietly become powerful patterns that shape not just our financial outcomes, but every outcome. Chris, I know the answer to this question I'm going to give you. So maybe we'll just riff off this one. But how much of modern consumer behavior is driven emotionally instead of rationally? And let's flip this actually a little bit. How much of decisions, not just financially, but as a whole, do you think are mostly emotional based in this new society? And do you think it's always been emotional based versus rational based?
Yeah. So again, the answer is going to be a lot. You could probably
Right.
80 to 90% of it's emotional based and not rational. And I think that's the way it's probably always been. However, I think it is getting worse nowadays. I think it's getting worse now because we're not able to listen to our emotions, or we're hearing the first emotion that comes up and we're like, yep, that one's true. That's it. Without listening to the myriad of other emotions that are happening simultaneously. And I don't know this to be fact, but I believe that our emotions developed over millennia, not just within ourselves, but within pretty much all species in order to keep us alive. And these emotions are just algorithms. An algorithm is something that takes in a bunch of data and gives you a bunch of if then statements, if then, if then, if then, if then, and gives you a numerical score. You can take it down to math if you want to. So when we feel an emotion, we might say, oh, this emotion is true or not true, but it is taking in more data than our conscious mind can somehow calculate and is giving you a feeling of to move forward, to move against, to stand where you are. And it's all happening outside of the rational mind. And people think of like, oh, well, I have this like gut feeling. Like, yeah, that's a real thing. Your body and your brain are not two separate systems. They're one system. So your emotions, those are the things that are pushing you or repelling you away from things. In fact, we know from studies that if we take out somebody's ability to feel emotions, they cannot make decisions. They just can't. Like we've done it. We've gone in there, blocked people's emotion centers in their brains. How do you do it? I have no freaking idea. But we have the ability to do it. And then you ask them like, hey, do you choose A or B? And they can't do it. They can't make a decision at all. People think and like economics. I remember when I was in college, I went through economics and even in my training to be a financial advisor, we went through a lot of economic models. The math doesn't matter. Life doesn't live in spreadsheets. Obviously, it does matter a lot, but people don't make those decisions based off of rationality. That's the reason that the work from like people like Daniel Kahneman, one of the most famous economists of the modern century, was all about how human beings are predictably irrational. Because when you look at economic models and you look at the way the world should work, and if you're not watching on video, that's super strong in freaking quotation marks. The way the world should work is based off of if everyone was a rational actor. None of us are rational actors almost ever. We are all emotion based. No one has ever decided, oh, should I rent my house or should I go and buy? Right there, I bet you every single listener had an emotional decision there. Oh, I have to buy my house because that's what I was told to do. No one's actually going down, sitting on the numbers, looking at the spreadsheet and saying, like, this is the right information. This is the right decision based off of where I am right now, based off my financial situation, based off what I think is going to happen in the future. We all go off emotions, including myself, including Dominic. Like, I remember this house that I live in right now, when we saw it, my wife and I were like, that's it. Like, that's the house that we want to live in. Like, that's it. And it's not the cheapest house. Economically, rationally, it's a stupid decision. Rationally, we should have never left Arizona. We shouldn't be here in San Diego. It's an emotional decision. It's an emotional decision that we justified to ourselves every which way in order to continue to stay here. And that's the point of it. So, yes, modern consumption behaviors are driven by emotions instead of rationality. They always have been, and most likely they always will be. And this is the issue with people like looking to AI. AI is going to give you the rational answer to things. but you are still the one that has to emotionally deal with it. So we say it a lot here, but the perfect plan means nothing if you're not willing to do it. And another one that I really like that I'm trying to figure out a better way to express to people is that there are no solutions, only trade offs. I think that's extremely important for us to understand because rationally, according to the math, according to the spreadsheets, this is the freaking right answer. But the emotions are not going to line up with that. Again, there's a trade off. Here, I'm going to do one other example.
Okay.
For people that are, say you came to me, Dominic, you're like,
Yeah.
Chris, what is the best car? What car should I buy? And I say, well, Dominic, it depends. Like, what are you trying to do with the car? You're like, no, Chris, just tell me what the best car is. Like, rationally, what is the best car? And I could sit there and I could try to think of like all of these different things that I'm trying to figure out in my brain to find out the best car right for you. And I'll be like, all right, let's look at safety ratings. Let's look at MPG. Let's look at what it can do in terms of like different types of roads. I'll be like, all right, I think that this small SUV, this is my bias, but I think this small SUV is probably the perfect vehicle because I don't know what you're trying to do. And you get the small SUV, and you're like, Chris, I hate this car. And I'm like, well, why you hate the car? You're like, well, because I'm going to Monaco next weekend to drive in the Formula One race, and this car is not going to win me the race. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, dude, like I made you a rational decision based off all the information that I have, but and now you're sitting there saying that it doesn't work because of the situation that you find yourself in. That's why there's never like a clear answer to anything. It all depends. It's all dependent on these things. No solutions, only trade offs.
Interesting. Hmm. That's very interesting. I didn't realize how much emotions played in our decision making. I knew it was high, but I didn't think it would be everything.
I've spoken to many parents, many individuals. It helped a lot of people with
Mhm.
finances and stuff. I love, and I'm gonna just take this to real estate because I think it's one of the most clear examples of people saying like, "Oh, real estate, like, yeah, that's not an emotional thing. Like, I just look at my house as like it's an investment. It's this, it's that. Like, bullshit. Like, automatic. When someone says that, I know that they're lying to themselves because I know families that have you pull into the garage, you pull into the driveway for the first time and you see that house. It's not yours yet, but you see that sign, this is it. This is the house that I want. And I'm gonna have it. If I can get it, I'm gonna get it. And a financial advisor like myself can look there, we can sit there, we can show all the numbers of why it's not a good decision. And if your brain, your body, like your gut, everything is saying, like your emotions are driving you towards this is what you want, it is nearly impossible to overcome that. You have to look to yourself. Think about yourself. Rationally, you shouldn't eat that donut. Rationally, you should go to sleep early. Rationally, you should go and work out. But our emotions are going to supersede those things a lot of the time. And that's where you talked about those small, repeatable behaviors quietly become a powerful pattern that shapes our outcomes, not just financial, not just health wise, every single outcome. We all wait for these large moments in life where I get to make a decision that's going to change my life for the better or the worse. Those decisions very rarely come. The things that's going to make who you're going to become are the small micro decisions you make every single day. That's going to shape who you're going to become far more. The little decisions, those little things add up to be a lot.
And I think we discount how much those little decisions really mean. It's like, oh, it's just one of these, just one of those. But in total, I mean, we talk about it all the time on the episodes. The effect of an avalanche, right? It all starts with one little one little snowflake, one little snowball, and it, goes down the mountain and wipes out a whole town. Um, so how can we better focus on those small things?
I think it's going to come back to where we started the whole episode. It's by being conscious, by kind of waking up, by being bored and realizing, oh, the reason that I'm bored, maybe generally in life, like if you're in the back of a car and you're driving across country, like, yeah, you're going to be bored and that's okay. Like that's just part of life, man. But if you're perpetually bored, you're doing stuff and you're bored, you're living your life and you're bored. That's a signal from your body saying you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Like you need to wake up. You need to be conscious. You need to figure something out. You need to do something different. How many of us we go to school and we're told, oh, become an accountant, become a lawyer, become a doctor, become a this or that. And you're doing your job and you're busy, but you're just bored. It's like, this isn't it. This isn't my, again, Sanskrit or Dharma. Like, this isn't what I'm meant to live by.
Yeah.
But too many of us, we supersede that with rationality of like, nope, but this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's why we say, like, know thyself and to live the life in accordance with your own values. That feeling of boredom, that feeling of malaise, it's a signal. It's a signal from your higher self. The brain and the body and the universe or whatever is all resonating at the exact same frequency. I know, woo woo BS, and I get it, but like there's something trying to tell you, like, this is not the way that you need to move in. And by being able to take a second and to listen, to be bored, is the moment where we get to have that experience of like, oh, now I get to make another choice. Or you can say, you're going to let your rationality win and say, I can't do that right now because I have kids and I have these other things, these other responsibilities. So I'm going to deal with the board. I'm going to deal with these other things. And that's okay too. That goes back to my earlier point of there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs in life. Maybe your goal in life is to be a musician or whatever, but you became an accountant in order to support your wife and your family and your kids. I think it'd be a not wise decision to leave your corporate accounting job to go ahead and try to become a musician if you don't have any money saved up in order to do that. And that's the reason that we have the Fi Guys podcast, is to try to teach people to get money out of the way so they can focus on what matters most by living in certain value sets, spending less money than you make, investing the difference, trying to understand where your money is going so we can grow our money so we have the buying power that happens passively, that we can take those steps. We can take a step away from a job that isn't serving us. When we get to listen to that boredom and be able to move out into the world and do something more in line with our Dharma that may not make you as much money. But from being able to coach people and do this kind of shit for a living, it's amazing that how much people will never live their life because they're so afraid that the money isn't the right decision. Where once they finally like financial independence, they have a number, they kind of get closer to that number, either reach like financial independence entirely or a coast financial independence or whatever level they hit. And they're like, all right, this gives me the room to go and do what I want to do. And then they find they make more money doing what they wanted to do than what they were doing because it was the safe path.
You know, it's it's wild because on one hand, for me, I'm like, man, life is so short. Send it. And on the other hand, life is so long. Pull back. And it's that delicate balance with everything hanging in the in the balance, I guess.
I'm gonna bring something up. So I've been playing with this idea in my head a lot about like quantum states, right? Of something being in two positions at one time. And until a conscious entity seems to observe it, it exists in both those places. I think of time like a quantum state, right? The future is a quantum state. It is, and if we think about our lives, right? Life is short and life is long. It depends on what story happens after that moment. So we have to be able to decide that it's in a quantum state, and only by getting to it can we see what it is. It's both long and short simultaneously until the time allows us to get to that point where we see what it was. And from like a financial standpoint, you can think about it like this. There's so many people that are on the YOLO crowd. You only live once. So spend your paychecks before you get them, like do all this. If you live a short life, that is the right decision. And then there's other people, the super financial independence, retire early, which we kind of are offshoot of here at the Fi Guys. Financial independence, retire early is like you save everything. You're a miser. Like you live this like almost horrible life so that you can have this magical number in your bank account or your investments to finally feel good in life. And that might be the right decision. That's the right decision if you live for a long time. The fire person is not going to like the YOLO life, and the YOLO life is not going to like the financial independence, retire early life. So life is short and life is long simultaneously, and we don't know which one it's going to be. So the safest path is to live the middle path, where you're doing a bit of both. But our brains don't like that as human beings. We want it to be a set rule for everybody all the time throughout time and space. So again, I always tell people when I used to be a financial advisor doing this was like, if we can look at the calendar, you tell me what day you're going to die on, I got this. We're going to make such a good plan, but you can't. So you need to be able to deal with the trade-offs of life to figure it out. Because if you were the person who was to retire early, I'm going to save all my money and do all this stuff, and then you die in a month, yeah, you made it like that sucks, man. That does. And if you were the person that says, I'm just going to YOLO it and spend all of my money, and then at 85, you're working at Walmart or you're living on the streets, yeah, you made the wrong decision for your life right there. And maybe past you, they lived a great life, but future you is going to have to deal with those consequences. And that's the middle path. Finding the middle path for you. And there is no right answer. There are many, many wrong answers, but there is no right answer. That's why I say a lot here on the podcast. I find myself saying it more and more. There's pathology on both sides. The YOLO side, pathology, problems. The financial independence, retire early, I'm going to save everything and not live my life until some future date, problems. You need to be able to do both. And what that is for you is going to be different to me, to your friend, to your sister, your brother. If you had a twin, it's going to be different to that person. You could have the same genetics, like a twin, the same, for most part, same life experiences, and still have completely different things, completely different trade-offs that you are willing to deal with. And that's part of the game.
And I have one final question. This is our final question for the episode. Is dopamine itself the problem, or is it the lack of control? Freedom is the control of self, Marcus Aurelius, and true freedom may come less from external conditions and more from internal control. My question to you, Chris, where's the line between healthy stimulation and destructive overstimulation? And I don't think, and I don't expect you to be like, 13.4.
Yeah.
That's the number.
It's actually 42.
42. Yeah, exactly right. There's not an answer. It depends, right? Stole that line right out from underneath you. But I mean, but where does the line between the healthy stimulation? Because stimulation, I mean, we wouldn't be where we are as a humanity without stimulation, right? We need that. Right? What would be the point of us being hunter gatherers? You go hunt, you get the kill, and then what? You walk away from it? You eat it and it does nothing for you? That wouldn't be worth anything, right? So I don't know if we can find it, but in your opinion, where's that line at?
Yeah. I'm going to take it back just a second to there's pathology on both sides, right? So if constant stimulation, like you're just like someone got you, they put you into a chair, hooked you up, forced your eyeballs open, and just like started black. Like remember those old shows like Ren and Stimpy or like all that stuff where like the Russians would catch you and they would just make you watch stuff in order to brainwash you. We are doing that to our freaking selves right now. Like there's no one who locked you up and is trying to force feed you stuff. You sat your happy ass down on the couch with your phone and you just put it to your face and just did this all day. Just scrolled up, scrolled left or right. I don't know which direction. I'm pretty sure it's up. But you just did that all day long. No one forced you to do it. Pathology. The opposite. I did literally nothing all day. No stimulation. Just went into the void and disappeared. That sounds like a great life, and maybe you're going to achieve some sort of enlightenment that no one else has in this world. Maybe some people have, but not many people have. But are you going to live a life that at the end of it, you're like, yeah, that was great. I like made meaningful connections. I did all these things because you can't. You can't both be non-stimulated and make meaningful connections and like live out a life worth probably living. So the answer is 42. You want to be at 4. No, I'm joking. It'll be at 42% this or that. No, there is no answer. I think the question needs to be, and I come back to this more and more, that you get to ask yourself, is this serving me? Yesterday I woke up and it was a nice day and I was like, you know what? I have nothing to do today. And haven't had that in a long time. I have things to do. There are tasks that I could do if I wanted to, but it's not like I have to do these things. And that's a both a liberating feeling and it's a really scary feeling. Like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have anything to do. Like my tasks, my schedule is whatever. And that's kind of scary. I mean, ultimately it ends up filling itself up because it always does. But there was a time where I was sitting there and I was just scrolling. I sat down on my couch after doing a few things. I was sitting there scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. And about 20 minutes into it, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? And I think that was the point for myself to come and realize. It probably was about 5 or 10 minutes earlier than when I realized what was happening, that healthy stimulation went into destructive overstimulation. For me, we all get to decide that's right for ourselves. But the person that says like, "Oh, Chris, I just don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to be bored. I don't have time to do anything." Give me your phone. Let me go into the settings and let me see how much time you spend. If you're not going to give me the phone, be honest with yourself and open up your own damn phone. Go into the settings and look at your screen time. The average person that I've talked with and worked with has like 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours. The good ones who are good, 2 to 3 hours. Are good at that game, 2 to 3 hours a day of screen time. And maybe it's not your phone. Maybe it's your laptop. Maybe it's your iPad. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But the person who says, I don't have time for these things, you do. You don't want to make time. The exact same person who says, like, oh, I don't have time to eat healthy. I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time to do these things. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. And the way that we choose to use those times is all different. Yes, I know there are people who have kids, people who have responsibilities, people who have these things. But if it was important enough to you, you would find it. I can almost give you a pretty good thought experiment. And that if the mob showed up at your house tomorrow and said, hey, I need you to meditate. I need you to sit on a cushion and meditate for 10 minutes a day. And if you don't, I'm going to shoot you in the head. You are going to figure out a way to find 10 minutes. Necessity is one of the greatest ways to bring in discipline. Necessity is one of the greatest motivators in life. And you can use that for anything. Use it for working out. Use it for meditating. Use it for getting off of your phone. Use it for living a life worth doing. There's so many people, I want to start a business, but I just don't have time. I want to do all these things. And they'll say it for years and years and years. One of the things I've started doing or I've done in the past with coaching has been like, hey, if you don't do this, if you don't start putting 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day into this business, I don't want to ever hear you talk about it again. You can't start a business then, ever. It's done. Then you'll see them like, oh, okay, I guess I do actually want this. Or you'll see them not do it. And then you see like, okay, that's what you actually wanted. But too many of us were living off these scripts of other people of what I should want because that's what society told me to want. There's an idea that, yeah, maybe if you continually avoid it, you don't want it. Or maybe if you continually avoid it, you're just afraid of failing at it. And I don't know what the right answer is, but you do. And the only way you know that, again, like a quantum state, is by doing it, is by going into it, is by figuring it out and trying and failing and getting better or not. Only you can make that decision.
Mm.
So to answer your question,
42.
42. No, but truth, it comes when it's no longer serving you, no longer serving the long-term goal that you have for your life. And that means first off determining what is the goal for my life? What are the virtues I want to live by? How do I want to go out? All these things. Am I living according to my life or someone else's life? And then first you have to figure out that impossible question. Then you need to figure out the other impossible question is how do I get there? What things do I need to do? And are what I'm doing right now getting me towards that impossible question? And then you go to other people. You ask the 5 guys, Dom, you asked me the question, Chris, how do I do it? I have no freaking idea. I don't even know how to do it for myself. So how can I tell it to you? Like, I have ideas. I have things that I'm trying to figure out, and we all are trying to do it. So you can't go to anybody. There's no guru on a mountaintop. There's no nothing like that. And if there is that guy on the mountaintop somewhere, he's not talking to you.
Can't buy it. Can't buy his time. It's not for sale.
Yeah, not for sale. He does not care about you. He's dealing with He's dealing with astral stuff, like way bigger than us. He's protecting us from the demogorgons. Like, leave
Yeah,
him alone.
don't distract him. Gonna cause more problems. Alrighty. Well, for the action step this week, if you can, and I know you can, dial it to however you see so fit. Spend 1 hour this week with no stimulation, no phone, no music, no scrolling, no podcast. I know, shooting myself in the foot with that one. No TV, just your thoughts. This is so important. This is so important. If you can't do an hour, maybe an hour is the goal. Maybe today we'll start with 5 minutes. If 5 minutes is easy for you, maybe 15, 30 minutes, right? But definitely take some time just to be bored and explore your own mind and also observe your own mind. Silence can teach you a lot about where your mind will naturally go. So when you're quiet, where does your mind go? Does it go into a really dark place? Why does it go into a dark place? Does it go into a place where it's like, man, I'm the best. I'm so great. Well, why? And really just start to understand every step of your mind. It's almost like that Spider-Man meme where each Spider-Man is like pointing and looking at each other. It's like you're watching your mind as your mind is like it's just watching itself. It's so bizarre. But yes, spend some time this week, preferably each day, with no stimulation. You got this. So maybe the question isn't whether dopamine is bad. Maybe the real question is whether we still have control over what captures our attention. And if the attention shapes our lives, then what we give our attention to may be shaping who we become. We are very grateful that you've given us some of your attention today, and we hope that we've shaped it in a beneficial way. I think so. I think so. I might be biased. Chris, I might be biased. Right? Better than
42.
scrolling for an hour. 42. There we go. Blue 42. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. I really hope you got something out of this. If not, rewatch it. I mean, it'd be impossible for you not to get something out of this. At least you're more aware about dopamine and its effects. At least you're more aware of your place in the universe and how you can better operate and make life a little bit better for you and the people you love. So with that being said, I'm Dom. He's Chris. Make sure to share the episode with a family member, a friend, an enemy. Share it in a Discord community, anywhere you can. Go do that. This is the Five Guys Podcast. We'll see you in the next one.
Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor. It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.